not going to compete with each other. You can plant onions as close to each other as they'll grow, which really is maybe more like 6 inches. Sometimes they grow that. And then some greens. Anyway, is this making sense? But you don't have to worry when they say that this plant has to be 18 inches apart. Then most people assume that means that there's nothing in between that 18 inches. So this big green thing and then these other things in between. So that's my version of companion plants. And there probably are plants that like each other better, which any companion plant book I picked up, again what you said, Kristen, there's different, every person talks about different plant combinations. And it may be that there's different plant combinations in different type soils, different plants that really nurture each other. It may be 1 year. So that's why I kind of let them set the pace and them tell me. Oh, and so I'll talk a minute about how to listen to plants. And I was just reading, actually in this book, about if you want to listen to the wind, you have to prepare yourself by listening to plants. Because you learn that the same place you listen to plants from is the same place you listen to the wind from. And I used to teach classes on listening, how to open to your intuition, which is what channel I say it's on. And the first thing people always ask me is, how do you tell it from this voice that says, "No, don't do it that way, that's stupid!" And in the big picture, your heart is open when you're listening to the intuition, and you really can learn to distinguish that ragging voice that you have from your heart speaking to you. And it's really fun. I'm hoping I'm giving a workshop in the open space that's really going to be about that, how to open that place and listen more. But I tell you, if you, in the garden was where I learned, and it's the easiest place to learn it. And just kind of look at the plants and say, what do you want from me right now? And you may not hear it until the middle of the night when you wake up and go, oh, it said this. But that's how you start it. And then, yeah, if you wake up in the middle of the night, you might have a piece of paper to write it. So, and that's the other thing, listening to your intuition. The more you don't listen to it, the more it's not coming in to tell you. So, so it's good even if you wait until the middle of the night to hear. Oh, and that's another thing. You can ask before you go to sleep what you're supposed to hear from your plants, especially if plants are looking droopy or bug-eaten. You can ask as you go to sleep. I need to hear what you have to say. And then I don't know what you do, I actually don't write things down, but many people, things that are important to them, they write down. So if you can if you do write down what's important to you, then if you'll do that, then those things will come up more for you. So getting back to the quick overview of how to start a garden, we essentially scalp the garden, which means we go down about 2 inches. We don't even bother to get the deep roots out of that garden. We go down about 2 inches, and you can do that with a shovel by going kind of vertically and then really moving sideways and going under it. So you can get about 4 inches under, going horizontally. And there's a special tool called a grubber hoe. which is a piece of cake to do it with. A grubber hoe is about a 6-inch wide blade. It's quite a big, sturdy blade. It's on something like an axe, big, heavy thing, and you go whoosh, and you can get about 6 inches that way. I, unfortunately, can only do about 10 times of that before I exhaust myself. So we clear it that way. If there's just weeds, at this time of year we use a lot of water to get it breakable at that point. And then we dig down 4 to 6 inches to make paths. And my favorite kind of paths are serpentine paths. And that is, serpentine is, and that to me is, it's visually better, and Fukuoka actually said in one of his books that he feels like the insects travel in a straight line, and that when you plant in serpentine beds that you're getting away from the insects. And we have felt that we have less insects. We don't usually have insect problems. And there's a trick. Like if you're doing, and this is hard for people, you do a serpentine bed, you do the, I actually let the space tell me how the shape wants to be. And then I'll make one line as a theme line in that bed. So maybe in this bed, and I can't say because it's kind of square or round, but you know, I'd make it kind of round like this, maybe over here. And then, so you need to get a shovel and go to the next, you know, to make a 4-foot bed. So that's the other thing. I always use 4-foot beds. Or maybe if the person is taller, a 4.5-foot bed. And that's, so we really fill that with plants. And we talked before about putting the 18-inch plants in first, putting the plants in between there, in between. And then sometimes the way the lines are moving inspire us to go off in that direction and in that direction, so there'll be some, anyway, the gardens are usually beautiful, and we always like to put some flowers in, and insects like, the insects that pollinize things like flowers, so nasturtiums and calendula, anyway, we put in always herbs. What I'm going off to do now is to learn to do more medicinal plants and shade gardens. So, because a lot of people have space to garden that isn't in the sun. So what else? Okay, so then we plant. Oh, so we lift up, just dig the places that we're going to walk, which are about 18-inch paths. I actually keep mine down to about 12 inches because I can't stand to lose space. But especially with new gardeners, we want to make them very comfortable. We don't want them to feel they have to squish themselves. And so I actually studied biodynamic French intensive. That's my whole background. And in biodynamics, there's a lot of potions, that I will now call them, that we use to prepare the land. And I am now not doing that so much. We actually use one other thing called soil activator, which comes from Paralandra, which is a homeopathic that attracts, I feel, the same kind of energy that the biodynamic potions do. And what was I going to say? But in biodynamics, the main thing is that it's the job of man to be the connection between plants and the spirit world.